Hello everyone, Ion here. In 2020, I released a video where I ranked all of Ash Ketchum's companions, and now it's time for me to redo that list. Safe to say, my opinions have changed on these characters a lot, and in that video, I didn't rank Go or Chloe since journeys had only just begun. Not only will they be included, but you'll notice that I have a lot more appreciation for almost all of the companions, even if I also have some new complaints about them. So even if a character's low on the list, don't let it be forgotten that I appreciate all characters in Pokemon, at least just a little bit. Also, now that Ash's on-screen journey is completed for the time being, I think it's time to have a final ranking as a way to send off these amazing characters. Just to clarify, this will only include main traveling companions and not people that were traveling with the main cast temporarily. This means no characters such as In or Karina, unfortunately, even though they definitely wouldn't be at the bottom of my list. So yeah, let's get started with number 18, Chloe. Man, I actually really wanted to like Chloe. She's got a great design for one, and I do happen to enjoy her in the beginning. I also like things such as the fact that she has trouble figuring out what she wants to do in life. It could be a great message that you don't always have to map out your life, especially when you're young. But the problem is, her development is not done well at all. In the rare episodes where she actually joins Ash and Go, she's arguably the worst part of the episode, or she's just an afterthought. One example of this is Journey's episode 94, where she brings Go and Ash along to a flower arranging contest. She's the one who originally wanted to go, but then in the episode she barely does anything? Like what? And it's like this throughout the entire series aside from a few moments. So yeah, I don't like how Chloe was treated, and that's why she's sadly at the bottom. Number 17, Sophocles. Let's start with what I like, which is his personality. They execute it really well in the show, and I enjoy his returns in Journeys because it shows him exactly doing what he set out to do after his time shared with Ash. He also has some solid focus episodes in Sun and Moon, such as the one where he thought he was moving away, or one of my personal favorites, the Minior episode where he recounts the tragic story of Minior as history repeats itself before his very eyes. Him having a Vikavolt is also really cool, but unfortunately I just don't care about Sophocles very much. Like, I often forget about him because if you took him out of Sun and Moon entirely, there wouldn't be that much of a difference. You wouldn't lose much. Number 16, Go. This is sure to piss some people off. But yeah, Go is just boring. I don't care about him outside of his personality and relationship to Ash. Catching them all, while it works for the Pokemon games, does not work well in the anime. I mean, we spent 20 years up to this point seeing various characters like Ash battling and earning trust over Pokemon before catching it. Meanwhile, aside from a few Pokemon, Go just blindly throws a ball and catches tons of them. I don't really like that. Additionally, I'm just gonna say it, Project Mew is trash. I liked maybe one episode out of the entire thing, the C. Mauville episode, but I was so pissed off that they chose to make Go have to leave Ash's final battle against Leon for Project Mew that I didn't even watch those 2 episodes. I don't care, it's not worth my time, and it's stupid how they chose to write it. Also, he doesn't deserve to have legendaries like Regieleki and Suicune. He's not that good of a trainer, and it's flawed writing to make it seem like he did something to earn their respect or that he was strong enough to defeat one. Still better than Sophocles and Chloe, but honestly not by much. Rant over, moving on. Number 15, Iris. Next up is Iris, who is no longer second to last on the list. Great job, Iris. I actually appreciate Iris a little more than I used to, but that's in no part because of Journeys. She gets shafted in Journeys so hard. Even though it is cool to see her newfound strength, she just rejoins the series to lose to Ash and then to lose to Cynthia. What was the point? Focusing in on her time in Black and White though, it's unfortunate that her storyline with Drayden never got properly fulfilled. Instead, we get shown her pre-series interactions with Drayden, challenging him to a battle and getting destroyed, leaving her village to get stronger. Then in the series, she battles him again, loses, and they don't see each other on screen again until Journeys. This leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, not gonna lie, and that coupled with the Journeys thing is why she's at number 15, even though I can't appreciate her personality and presence nowadays. Number 14, Lana. We are already starting to get into characters that I like for the most part, and that begins with Lana. I think they translated her from the game very well. In the game, she is shown to love playing simple pranks on her friends in the form of blatant lies that she immediately says just kidding about. It's hilariously executed too.
I'm gonna catch a Mega Gyarados in the wild.
A Mega Gyarados! Awesome! I had no idea you could do that! Kidding!
I also love how close of a bond her and Mallow have, and the encouragement she gave her during the Mallow conference was so sweet. In the previous list, I ranked Lana at 8, and I still like Lana just as much, but since then I've learned to appreciate other characters more than her. She didn't drop because of me liking her less is what I'm saying. Number 13, Max. I'm just gonna say it, he gets too much hate. He's a fun character whose presence I actually quite enjoy. I love that they establish him as a fan of battling, but that he isn't a super fan and he's more of a know-it-all brat, as shown when he meets Ash. Additionally, I really appreciate his relationship with Brock, as Brock helps to keep the group fed and the tensions at a reasonable level, while Max is great with navigating and general knowledge of various Pokemon. They also do well at illustrating his sibling relationship with May, as they do butt heads from time to time like siblings would. I really love Max and Jiraiya's relationships in movie 6 as well, and the ending of that movie makes me so emotional. I'm not crying, you're crying. Speaking of tears though, I think Max could have been so much better if they let him have a Pokemon, or May catch one on his behalf like a certain other character in a future series. But I can't fault them for abiding by established logic in the world of Pokemon. Number 12, Cilan. Just because he takes his place, I thought Cilan was a bit of a discount Brock, but now I see that Cilan is his own character with his own personality, tastes, and aspirations. Not only that, but he's a hilariously multi-talented character. He loves so many different things. He's a gym leader, a chef, train enthusiast, and most importantly, a Pokemon connoisseur all in one. His personality has a lot of flavor, and that makes him an incredibly likable character. I also appreciate that the way he's treated in the series is consistent with his background. Since he's a gym leader, he's shown to be an incredibly strong trainer, defeating people like Trip throughout the series. I also really appreciate his rival in Burgundy, and they have really good character dynamics. Overall, big Cilan fan even though he's at number 12. Number 11, Misty. Right off the bat, one thing I want to note about Misty is her relationship to Ash. These two are definitely best friends, and I think a nice underrated detail about her is how her exit from the show was handled. Unlike other companions who left because their ambitions had them going somewhere different than Ash, Misty left out of necessity and not by choice because her sisters needed somebody to take over at the Cerulean Gym. That's a testament to their relationship. Now I know some people are going to be a bit disappointed that Misty is this slow, but I don't really hate Misty that much like I used to. I like how she was stronger than Ash in the beginning and taught him the ropes of being a Pokemon trainer along with Brock. Also, just a very solid personality for a supporting character. Very sassy, tomboyish, but still very sweet and kind, as well as a little bit full of herself, but not in a toxic way, more of a self-love, healthy type of way. This makes for some good comedic moments between her and Ash, like when Ash says only one of us can hallucinate at a time, when Misty talks about how pretty she is. That's a great thing about Misty too, the banter between her and Ash as well as her chemistry with Brock. Very good character dynamics overall, and I really like Misty's return episodes in AG, Journeys, and especially Sun and Moon. Number 10, Mallow. Mallow is a great character and someone I really loved getting to see all throughout the Sun and Moon series and during Journeys. Mallow's backstory is absolutely saddening and one I don't see get talked about enough in the fandom. Mallow had a childish resentment for her mother and her constant apologizing for her medical condition, causing her to lash out at her as the last interaction between them prior to her death. Not only is that a terrible thing for a mother to hear from her child before dying, it's a terrible guilt that Mallow felt for her entire life going forward. In episode 108 of Sun and Moon, however, Mallow gets the chance to open up to Lana about this, and Tapu Fini listens from a distance. Earlier, Hapu mentioned that Tapu Fini's mist has the power to reconnect people with the deceased, and that's what happens with Mallow and other characters in this episode. Mallow gets to reconnect with her mother, and it's such a touching scene as she apologizes. The final goodbye between them is equally as touching. Like bro, how does Sun and Moon get so much hate for being a childish series, yet characters have some of the most traumatic backstories? This episode makes me cry every time I watch it, and it's enough for me to really appreciate Mallow. Number 9, Kiawe. Kiawe stays at number 9, but don't get it twisted because I very much love this character much more than I did on the previous list. He's such a unique character being Ash's rival and his classmate, so they're together in pretty much every Sun and Moon episode. I love how respectful their rivalry is without feeling like your standard friendly rivalry. They actually butt heads quite a few times, like when they're both leisurely walking to Tapu Fini's cave and then it becomes a race since they're both naturally competitive. I also love the Pokemon baseball episode where Kiawe becomes super passionate about it for seemingly no reason, and he even uses his Z move. Speaking of Z moves, Kiawe kicks major ass with his Z moves in the show, even from the beginning. I also love the gag in early Sun and Moon where Ash imagined Kiawe using Inferno Overdrive on him for losing his Z crystal, and then when Kiawe actually finds out, he almost does use it. This makes me appreciate how enriched Kiawe is in the traditions of Alola, especially because his goal is to become Kahuna of Akala, something we actively see him work towards, and he even gets mentioned as Kahuna in training in Pokemon Journeys. I do wish Ash and Kiawe got to battle in the Alola League, but at the end of the day that's not a huge deal, and I think Kiawe is a badass companion and rival. Number 8, Bonnie. Okay, so Bonnie is a deceptively great character. On the surface, she's just a little kid who loves Pokemon, but there's so much to enjoy from this character, particularly her relationships with the wide cast in XY. I hate to compare, but Bonnie getting to take care of Clement's Dedenne really feels a bit of a void that was there for Max and AG. But that's enough comparing because Bonnie is her own character with her own personality. She's gentle, kind, and very caring to all the Pokemon in the group and also outside of the group, like Flabebe and Tyrantrum. Once we get into XYZ, however, she gets a much more prominent role, thanks to Squishy, who learns to love people, which is a stark contrast to Z2, the other Zygarde. They also do a great job at showing her childish side because she still is the youngest of the group, lashing out, crying, all that stuff. However, Bonnie is responsible for some of the most serious and emotional moments in her series, when she breaks down and tearily sings the lullaby she made up for Squishy to break it out of Team Flare's control. Her tears are a bit contagious because that scene really gets me, along with her farewell to Squishy and later on Ash and Serena. Goodbyes always get me, and these were no different. Number 7. Lillie. Similar to Lana, Lillie has fallen down a bit on this list, but that doesn't mean I like her any less. In fact, Journeys made me appreciate her more. I feel like Lillie probably has one of, if not the most traumatic backstory of any main character because of being abducted by an Ultra Beast as a child. Yeah, I'd probably hate Pokemon too after experiencing something like that. It's also really nice seeing how Lillie opens up to them with the help of Ash and the rest of the people at the Pokemon school, leading up to her big leap of choosing to raise an egg that eventually hatched into Snowy. Despite some initial reservations, she eventually stops being afraid of Snowy and all Pokemon in general. After the Aether arc, she finally surpassed her fear, and I was so happy to see that she could be a full-fledged part of the gang now. Another source of Lillie's trauma is the fact that her father disappeared and was presumed dead. However, that all changed when she couldn't find Moan in Tapu Finney's mist, meaning he was likely still alive according to Hapu. So, at the end of Sun and Moon, Lillie, Gladion, and Lusamine set out to find him. This storyline doesn't actually finish until Journeys, but it's well worth the wait, and I just loved seeing their reactions when Moan regained his memory. Honestly, tears in my eyes. After everything, the family is now finally back together. Aya Matsui done an outstanding job writing this episode, and the way the callbacks linked to all the pieces of the puzzle with UB Lillie was superb. I am sold. Number 6. Tracey. Alright, so this has to be the biggest change between this list and the original. I have become an absolute super fan of Tracey Sketchit since the original video where I put him at the bottom. I mean, there are still criticisms and the memes.
Who the f is that guy?
He's a bit forgettable, he didn't do much, he was a temporary replacement for Brock because of external circumstances. I get why he isn't the most popular, but that doesn't matter to me. Some may remember the hashtag #BringBackTraceySketchit movement I started in 2020, and we got our wish. Tracey fans ate in Pokemon Journeys. We even got the original dub actor for his final goodbye, and confirmation of Venonat evolving. Amazing. I quite enjoy his lax personality, and I even did a dodgy cosplay of him back in 2021. He just represents something in the Pokemon anime that I love so much. Continuity. Yeah, I'm a bit of a continuity shill, get used to it. Notice that Tracey gets zero reference in XY and Sun and Moon. While I love those series, it did suck that he didn't even get a mention. In the old days, anytime Ash went back to Pallet Town, we got a cameo or mention about Tracey, and I'm glad they brought that back in Journeys. Tracey represents a complete world to me. When the character disappears, it's bad world building. If he's there, the world of the Pokemon anime feels whole. Number 5. Clemont. I know Clemont gets complaints for his fall off after the gym battle with Ash, but I never found that to be a huge problem, especially because of his involvement in the Team Flare arc, but I also just really enjoy his presence. Let's start with his character arc first. He initially starts to join Ash because of his admiration for his confidence and bravery against Garchomp at the top of Prism Tower. Once Ash is approaching his gym battle with Clemont, however, he decides to leave the group to train, and oh boy was it a great payoff. Definitely one of my favorite battles in the Pokemon anime because of the emotions and build up to it. I also really enjoy Clemont's gag of the future is now thanks to science, and in a change up to Brock's old proposing gag, instead this time Bonnie is the one proposing and he's dragging her away. Familiar but new feeling, not gonna lie. In terms of the Team Flare arc, Clemont having to execute the self-destruction of Klimbot in order to destroy Xerotic's machine is not sad in and of itself, but the presentation and animation of the scene is just gut-wrenching, and the themes of Clemont breaking Z2's control of science and Bonnie breaking Z1's with emotion, beautifully done. Number 4. Dawn. Oh man, I am so excited to talk about Dawn. So they really peaked when it comes to writing coordinators with this character. I know she was only the second and final coordinator, but still, I have almost no problems with her. Pretty straightforward backstory, she's the daughter of a world famous Pokemon coordinator. So she's pretty much destined for greatness, right? Right? Yeah, she definitely was a bit too sure of herself going in, but quickly realized after being defeated by Zoe that it's not going to be easy just because of who her mother is. I really like how they make her and Ash feel like best friends. She's the only one of Ash's companions who has an iconic greeting, the high touch, and the two also learn strategies from each other and use them in their respective profession. This is also the only time that they do a trade between two main characters, and I think it works out really well. Weasel gets to do battling and Ambipom gets to help Dawn win the Grand Festival, right? Right? Okay, putting that aside, I love the pacing of Dawn's contest wins. I mean, she wins her second one and doesn't win another until 52 episodes later, but there's 3 in between that her rivals win. She doesn't even get her final ribbon until 13 episodes before the Grand Festival. Way to keep the tensions up. Great writing, pacing, and characterization. Also, the first companion of Ash's that I ever watched since DP was my first series. Number 3. May. I think the chemistry between May and the other characters in the AG crew is so underrated. As I said in the Max entry, they do a great job illustrating their sibling relationship. I love Brock's passive dissemination of knowledge to May, and with Ash, their arguments are just so hilarious. It's a perfect illustration that these two are young and immature trainers, such as Ash getting impatient when May is taking too long to choose her Pokemon. However, by the end, these two really seem like great friends that can coexist. Not only that, but May has her own good moments, such as May's expedition, which honestly ties into her motivation to go on a journey, which was originally to travel. Even though I think contests overall were a bit better in DP, May's contest saga in Hoenn was amazing because we got to see her learn and grow into the profession and take those learned skills and use them to have a much more successful contest campaign in the Kanto region. Her growth is portrayed so well. I also like how she makes Blaziken, one of the coolest Pokemon that would probably be more associated with battling, work really well in contests. I like the rest of her team too, and her relationships with her various rivals are probably my favorite of the companions in the Pokemon anime. As a kid, I binged AG a lot. It's a big reason why it's a series I look back on so fondly, so May represents those good memories to me, and I'll admit it, I might have had a crush on her when I was like 8 years old. Number 2. Brock. You know Brock had to be up here. He's the OG and Ash's longest running companion. Watching episodes of the Pokemon anime that have Brock in them just feels right, you know? He has that air about him, that comforting feeling, like a nice older sibling figure, and that's fitting because that's the role he played during his time journeying with Ash, and also during his time taking care of his very large family. He also is the source of some of the best jokes and bits in the entire Pokemon anime. This might be a hot take, but Brock being thirsty as hell and hitting on any beautiful woman he sees is funny and it never gets old, especially when there's multiple different ways he gets carried off by Misty, Max, or Krogunk. He's shooting his shot, gotta respect the grind, and how can we forget things like the infamous drying pan joke or Professor Ivy?
That name!
Brock's just a great mentor figure to Ash, and honestly, these two are among my favorite duos in any medium. They're basically brothers, and yes, that goodbye, that parting of ways in DP is so well done. The mutual respect they have for each other, the look in their eyes, the affirmation of their goals, everything. It is probably the most bittersweet ending I have ever seen, just because of how much these two traveling together means to me. Say what you will about Brock feeling stale in AG and DP, but I think it's wrong. He never felt stale to me, and I would have been happy if he traveled with Ash for longer. It's amazing to see his growth in his return episodes in Sun and Moon, Journeys, and Aim to be a Pokemon Master, but his travels with Ash in the original series, Advanced Generation, and Diamond and Pearl are something that I will absolutely never forget. Number 1.
Hey bro, say it. Say the thing, man.
I'm not gonna say it.
Oh, just say it.
Fine.
Serena!
Thanks for watching. Alright, just kidding. But you guys know I'm still a huge Serena fan. I think her characterization in the series is so well done, and it's one of my favorite character arcs too. In recent years, I've tried to step away from acting like I relate to so many characters, but the truth is, the way Serena finds out what she wants to do and why is very similar to my reasonings for making these videos and for continuing with the silly childhood goal of one day having a successful YouTube channel. I mean, I didn't start my channel because I had a crush on someone from my childhood, but Serena starts the series training for something she feels obligated to do, Rhyhorn racing, but eventually comes to terms with the fact that she doesn't want to do that. The first season of the XY anime, Serena doesn't really have a direction because of that. This aimlessness is something I felt at the time, and in some ways something I feel today now that I just graduated college. However, Serena's reasons for wanting to become Kalos Queen is more than just the title. It's the confidence and compassion that would come with it, and most importantly, the idea of being an inspiration to others with similar goals. I hope I can someday be an inspiration to somebody who is an aspiring YouTuber. Additionally, I love how you can see Serena's emotions through the screen, such as when she anxiously tells her mom that she wants to travel with Ash, or when she cuts her hair. Another thing, I was reluctant to mention this because it's kind of counterintuitive to the point I want to make, but notice all these things I've said about Serena have nothing to do with Amore shipping. I wish people could separate her from that ship because she's a great character in her own right, and I love that she learned by the end to forge her own path separate from Ash, and her growth is shown beautifully in Pokemon Journeys. It's a great return, and the brief interaction that she and Ash have at the end is so sweet, but like with Brock, I will never forget their time traveling together. And I will never forget about you either if you comment your favorite companion below and subscribe to become a part of the Ionic Bond phenomenon. See ya!